Admiral James Stone stood at the main window of Earth Defense Station Alpha, his gray eyes fixed on the distant stars. The space around Earth's orbit was peaceful, but the emergency alert flashing on his screen told a different story. His assistant had just rushed in with news that would change human history forever. "Admiral, we've detected multiple objects entering the solar system. They're massive, sir, and they're moving faster than anything we've ever seen," reported Lieutenant Dale, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Stone nodded slowly. After years of preparing for this moment, first contact was finally happening. But something felt wrong. The incoming ships weren't following any of the peaceful contact protocols that humanity had been broadcasting into space for the past 50 years. The massive screens in the command center showed the approaching fleet. They were beautiful ships, sleek in silver, with designs that seemed impossible by human standards. But Stone had learned in his 30 years of military service that beautiful things could still be deadly. 3 hours later, the first transmission came through. The alien ship's commander appeared on the main screen. He looked almost human, except for his golden skin and completely black eyes. He wore an elaborate uniform covered in what looked like military medals. "I am High Commander Rex of the Galactic Empire," the alien announced in perfect English. "Your primitive world has been chosen for integration into our empire. Surrender now, and your transition will be peaceful. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate our power." Stone's jaw tightened. He had expected many possible first contact scenarios, but an immediate demand for surrender wasn't one of them. "This is Admiral James Stone of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization, but we do not respond well to threats." Rex's expression showed what could only be described as amusement. "Admiral, you don't seem to understand. We have conquered over 300 worlds. Your species has barely reached your own moon. Be reasonable." Stone allowed himself a small smile. The aliens didn't know about the colonies on Mars or the military bases hidden throughout the asteroid belt. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for this moment ever since they first looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. "Commander Rex," Stone replied, "I suggest you research our species before making assumptions. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting wars. We've developed from sticks and stones to spaceflight in less than 10,000 years. That's not because we're peaceful." Rex laughed, the sound oddly musical. "Admiral, your primitive nuclear weapons and basic space vessels don't concern us. We have technology you couldn't even dream of." "You're not the first to underestimate humans," Stone warned. "Every time someone has called us primitive, we've proved them wrong. Every time someone has tried to conquer us, we've fought back harder than they thought possible. This is your only warning. Turn back now." The alien commander's amusement faded slightly. "You dare threaten the Galactic Empire? We have ships that could reduce your cities to ash with a single shot, and we have surprises that will make you regret ever entering our solar system." Stone replied calmly. "High Commander Rex, humanity has spent its entire existence fighting itself. We've gotten very, very good at war. If you force us to fight you, we will. And unlike those 300 worlds you conquered, we won't go down easily." Rex's black eyes narrowed. "You have 24 hours to surrender, Admiral. After that, we will show you the true meaning of power." The transmission cut off. Stone turned to his command staff, who had watched the exchange in tense silence. "Send the alert to all Earth Defense Forces. Contact the Mars colonies and the Belt Command. Activate the orbital defense platforms, but keep them in stealth mode." He paused, looking at each person in the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, humanity is about to fight its first interstellar war. Let's show the galaxy why they should have taken our warning seriously." As his orders were carried out, Stone looked back at the stars. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and its own destructive nature. Now they would face their greatest challenge yet, but for the first time in history, all of humanity would fight together against a common enemy. The Empire thought they were facing a primitive species. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their stubborn refusal to ever give up. High Commander Rex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Glory, watching as his fleet of 500 warships moved into attack position. The blue-green planet called Earth hung in the distance, looking peaceful and primitive. He smiled to himself, thinking about how easy this conquest would be. "Sir, all ships report ready for the attack," his second-in-command reported. "Should we begin the standard subjugation pattern?" "Yes," Rex replied. "Start with their primitive satellites. Then target their major cities. They'll surrender once they see our true power." The first wave of Imperial ships moved forward, their weapons charging. But something strange happened. Their sensors suddenly picked up hundreds of new objects appearing all around Earth. The primitive satellites were transforming, revealing hidden weapons that had been carefully disguised. "Sir," an officer shouted, "enemy defense platforms detected. They're not showing up on our standard scans." Rex's confident smile disappeared as the first shots were fired, not from his ships, but from Earth's defenses. Brilliant beams of energy shot out from the orbital platforms, striking several Imperial ships before they could raise their shields. "Impossible," Rex growled. "Their technology shouldn't be this advanced." He watched in shock as 3 of his ships exploded, their shields useless against weapons they hadn't expected humans to have. But the surprises weren't over. New contacts appeared on their sensors, coming from behind Earth's moon. A fleet of human warships emerged, their designs unlike anything the Empire had seen before. They were blocky and practical, built for war rather than beauty. Admiral Stone's voice came through their communication system. "This is your second warning, Commander Rex. Withdraw now or face the consequences." Rex's pride wouldn't let him retreat. "All ships, attack pattern Delta. Show these primitives the might of the Empire." The space around Earth erupted into chaos. Imperial ships fired their advanced energy weapons, expecting to cut through the human fleet with ease. Instead, they watched in surprise as the human ship's armor absorbed their attacks. The Empire's standard weapons, designed to quickly overwhelm primitive planetary defenses, weren't working as planned. Then the humans showed their true strategy. Smaller ships appeared from the asteroid belt, attacking the Imperial fleet from behind. They moved in ways that seemed impossible, using the asteroids themselves as cover and weapons. "Sir, we're detecting more ships launching from Mars," an officer reported, panic in his voice. "They have bases there, and in the asteroid belt." Rex gripped his command chair as his ship shook from a direct hit. The humans weren't fighting like any species they had encountered before. They didn't follow the standard rules of space combat. Their ships deliberately crashed into Imperial vessels, their crews ejecting at the last second to be picked up by other human ships. "Status report," Rex demanded. "We've lost 40 ships, sir. Their weapons, they're not just energy-based. They're using projectiles that our shields aren't designed to stop." Rex watched in growing horror as his carefully planned attack fell into chaos. The humans fought like demons, using tactics that went against all Imperial military doctrine. They had turned space itself into a weapon, using gravity assists from planets to achieve impossible maneuvers. "Sir, should we retreat and regroup?" his second-in-command asked, fear evident in his voice. "No," Rex shouted. "We are the Imperial fleet. We don't retreat from primitives." But even as he said it, another wave of human ships appeared, launching from hidden bases on the dark side of the moon. The battle raged for hours, turning the space around Earth into a graveyard of broken ships. The Empire's superior numbers were matched by humanity's superior tactics and unexpected technology. For the first time in Imperial history, a standard subjugation fleet had fought to a stalemate. As Rex ordered his remaining ships to pull back to a safe distance, he received one final message from Admiral Stone. "That was just our orbital defense force, Commander. Would you like to see what our actual Navy can do?" Rex stared at the message for a long time, realizing that the Empire had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't just found another primitive species to conquer. They had awakened a sleeping giant, and now they would have to face the consequences. Admiral Stone walked through one of Earth's largest vehicle factories, watching as the assembly lines that once made cars now produced military vehicles and spacecraft parts. The factory's transformation had taken less than a week. All around him, workers moved with purpose, their faces determined. "It's amazing how quickly we can adapt," said Tom Baker, the factory's manager, walking beside Stone. "Yesterday we made trucks. Today we're building parts for warships." The workers learned the new systems in just 3 days. Stone nodded, remembering something his grandfather had told him about Earth's old wars. "When humans are threatened, we don't just fight back. We change everything about our world to win." In orbit above them, the remains of the first battle still drifted through space. The Empire had lost nearly 100 ships, but they still had a massive fleet waiting just beyond Mars' orbit. They were probably wondering why the humans hadn't attacked yet. They were about to find out. Back at Defense Station Alpha, Stone reviewed the reports from around the solar system. Every factory on Earth, Mars, and the Moon was now producing weapons and ships. But humanity's real advantage wasn't in their manufacturing. It was in their secret weapon. "Show me the AI combat system," Stone ordered. The main screen lit up, displaying the artificial intelligence that humanity had kept hidden for decades. Unlike the Empire's rigid battle computers, this AI could think and adapt like a human. It had already analyzed every move the Empire had made during the first battle. "The Empire's ships follow strict patterns," the AI reported, its voice calm and clear. "They have fought the same way for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt. We can use this against them." Stone smiled. The Empire thought humanity was primitive because they didn't have fancy energy weapons or beautiful ships. They didn't understand that humans had focused on something far more important, the ability to think differently. "Launch Operation Ghost," Stone commanded. Across the solar system, small teams of human special forces began their missions. These soldiers, trained in zero-gravity combat and equipped with advanced stealth suits, silently approached the Empire's patrol ships. The Empire never saw them coming. On the Imperial command ship, High Commander Rex was getting frustrated reports from his fleet. "Another patrol ship has gone silent," an officer reported. "That's the 5th one today. Our scans show nothing nearby." Rex slammed his fist on his command chair. "Impossible. How can they be attacking us without ships?" The answer came soon enough. One of their supposedly dead patrol ships suddenly came back online and opened fire on its fellow Imperial vessels. The humans hadn't destroyed the ships. They had captured them. "How are they doing this?" Rex demanded. His officers had no answer. They had never encountered an enemy that could turn invisible, board their ships without being detected, and then use their own vessels against them. The Empire's mighty warships were being stolen one by enemies they couldn't even see. But the humans weren't done surprising them. Stone watched as the next phase began. The captured Imperial ships transmitted massive amounts of data back to Earth before the Empire could shut them down. Human scientists and engineers began immediate analysis, learning the Empire's technological secrets. "Sir," a young officer reported to Stone, "we've already figured out how their shield systems work. Our factories are being updated now to produce our own version, but better." This was humanity's greatest strength. They didn't just copy technology. They improved it. While the Empire had used the same designs for centuries, humans looked at everything and asked, "How can we make this better?" In his command center, Stone received reports from across the solar system. The moon base was now producing new hybrid weapons that combined human and Imperial technology. Mars colonies had already launched the first ships equipped with reverse-engineered Imperial drives, and Earth's factories were working around the clock, building weapons that would give the Empire a nasty surprise. "Send a message to all human forces," Stone ordered. Operation Sleeping Giant is now fully active. It's time to show the Empire why they should have listened to our warning. As the message went out, Stone looked at the tactical display showing the Empire's fleet. They still had more ships, more weapons, and more soldiers. But they were about to learn that in war, numbers and technology weren't everything. Sometimes, the most dangerous enemy was the one who could think differently. And humans had been thinking differently for their entire history. The Imperial command ship's communications suddenly went dark. Then their navigation systems failed. One by one, every computer system on their mighty warships began showing the same message. You should have run when you had the chance. High Commander Rex watched in horror as his fleet's advanced technology turned against them. Somehow, the humans had broken through their supposedly unbreakable computer defenses. "Sir," his officer reported, panic in his voice, "we're detecting thousands of small objects approaching our fleet. These weren't missiles or fighters. They were simple communication satellites, launched weeks ago. The Empire had ignored them, thinking they were just primitive technology. Now these satellites were broadcasting signals that cut through Imperial security like it wasn't even there." On Earth Defense Station Alpha, Admiral Stone watched the operation unfold. Next to him, a young computer expert named Jack smiled as his team's virus spread through the Imperial fleet. "They never expected us to attack their computers," Jack said. "They thought their systems were too advanced to hack. But they forgot something important. Humans have been fighting cyber wars against each other for centuries. The Empire's ships started losing power. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Their shields flickered and died. They had built their entire fleet around advanced technology, never thinking that a primitive species might find a way to turn it off. But Stone wasn't done yet. As the Empire's ships drifted in space, unable to fight back, the real attack began. Human ships appeared from behind Mars, but they looked different now. They had been rebuilt using captured Imperial technology combined with human innovations. Where Imperial ships were beautiful but predictable, these hybrid vessels were ugly but deadly. "Launch the boarding teams," Stone ordered. Across the solar system, special teams of human soldiers used their stolen Imperial teleporters to appear inside the Empire's helpless ships. But unlike the Empire's soldiers, these humans could fight in any environment. They had trained in zero gravity, underwater, and in the harshest conditions Earth could provide. Rex could only watch as human soldiers took over ship after ship. His crew tried to fight back, but they had never faced anything like these Earth warriors. The humans didn't fight like proper soldiers. They used tricks, traps, and tactics that no civilized military would consider. "Sir," one of Rex's few remaining officers reported, "the humans are taking control of our supply ships. They're using our own cargo teleporters to steal our supplies." Stone watched the battle map with satisfaction. The Empire had positioned their supply ships safely behind their battle fleet, protected by their best shields. But they hadn't counted on humans finding a way to hack their teleporter systems. Now, massive Imperial supply ships were watching helplessly as their cargo holds emptied themselves. Food, fuel, spare parts, and ammunition simply vanished, teleported away by human operators using the Empire's own systems. "Status report," Stone called out. "Sir, we've captured 30% of their fleet intact," his officer reported. "Their remaining ships are trapped between our forces and the asteroid belt. And," he paused, smiling, "our engineers say they've figured out how to make their energy weapons work with our targeting systems." As if to prove the point, one of the hybrid human ships fired its newly installed Imperial energy cannon. But instead of the usual straight beam, it split into multiple shots, guided by human targeting computers in ways the Empire had never imagined. The once mighty Imperial fleet was in chaos. Their perfect formation was broken. Their superior technology was being used against them. And worst of all, they were starting to feel something they had never experienced before. Fear. Stone opened a communication channel to all human forces. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin Operation Checkmate." As his words went out, Hundreds of human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. Each one was equipped with stolen and improved Imperial technology. Each crew had trained specifically to counter Imperial tactics, and each soldier was ready to show the Empire why humanity had survived countless wars against itself. The Empire was about to learn that they hadn't just started a war. They had awakened humanity's full potential, and now they would face the consequences of their mistake. The massive Imperial warship that appeared at the edge of the solar system was unlike anything humanity had seen before. It was 3 times the size of the largest ships in the previous battles, its hull gleaming with weapons. On its bridge stood Grand Marshal Wells, the Empire's most decorated military commander. "High Commander Rex," Wells said, his voice cold with anger, "you have failed the Empire. I will take command now." Rex stood silently as Wells surveyed the tactical displays showing the recent battles. The Empire had lost nearly half its invasion fleet, either destroyed or captured by the humans. Worse, their enemies were now using Imperial technology in ways that should have been impossible. "These humans," Wells said, "they fight without honor, without proper military doctrine. This ends now." He turned to his command staff. "Launch the planet killers." On Earth Defense Station Alpha, Admiral Stone received the warning from their long-range sensors. "New contacts," his officer reported. "Bigger than anything we've seen. Energy readings are off the charts." Stone watched as the massive new Imperial ships moved into attack formation. Each one carried weapons designed to crack planets apart. The Empire had finally revealed their true power. But humanity had been preparing for this moment. "Launch Operation Mind Games," Stone ordered. Across the solar system, human ships began broadcasting on all frequencies. Not attacks, not threats, but information. They transmitted everything they had learned about the Empire's history of conquest. Every broken promise, every destroyed civilization, every act of cruelty. All sent directly to every Imperial ship's communication systems. "What is this?" Wells demanded as his crew began receiving the transmissions. "Sir," his communications officer said, voice shaking, "the humans, they're sending these broadcasts to our home worlds too. They've hacked our entire communications network. Everyone in the Empire is seeing this." Wells growled in fury. The humans weren't just fighting their ships. They were attacking the Empire's reputation, its very foundation of power. "Silence those transmissions. Fire the planet killers." The massive Imperial weapons powered up, ready to demonstrate their ultimate power. But at that moment, something unexpected happened. Small objects appeared near each Imperial ship. They looked like simple satellites, but they were broadcasting a strange energy field. The Empire's mighty weapons began to malfunction. "What's happening?" Wells demanded. "Sir, they're using our own shield technology against us," an officer shouted. "Those devices are creating inverted shield bubbles inside our ships. Our weapons can't power up without destroying themselves." Stone watched from his command center as the Empire's supreme weapons were neutralized by simple human ingenuity. His engineers had studied the captured Imperial shields and realized they could be reversed, turned inward instead of outward. But that wasn't the end of humanity's surprises. "Begin Phase 2, Stone ordered. Suddenly, the asteroid belt came alive. What the Empire had thought were simple rocks were actually disguised human bases and weapons platforms. Thousands of them, all working together in a coordinated attack. Wells watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet was surrounded. The humans had turned the entire solar system into one giant trap. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, even the frozen comets in the outer system, all had been part of their plan. "Impossible," Wells whispered. "They're just primitives. How can they be doing this?" The answer came from his own crew. Some of them had seen the human transmissions, had learned the truth about their empire's history. And now, for the first time, Imperial soldiers began questioning their orders. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "maybe we should consider talking to them." Wells turned in rage, ready to punish such treasonous thoughts. But he stopped when he saw the looks on his crew's faces. The humans hadn't just outsmarted them militarily. They had done something far more dangerous. They had made the Empire's own people think. Admiral Stone stood in the war room of Earth Defense Station Alpha, surrounded by holographic displays showing every part of the solar system. After months of fighting, it was time for humanity's master plan. Operation Thunderstrike. All forces report ready, sir, his officer announced. The Empire's fleet is exactly where we want them. Stone nodded. The Empire's mighty armada was clustered near Jupiter, preparing for what they thought would be their final attack on Earth. Grand Marshal Wells had gathered every remaining Imperial ship for one massive assault. That was exactly what humanity had been waiting for. Begin Operation Thunderstrike, Stone ordered. All units execute their missions. Across the solar system, humanity's forces sprang into action. But this wasn't a normal military attack. This was something the Empire had never seen before, a combination of every trick, tactic, and strategy humans had learned in thousands of years of warfare. The first wave came from beneath the clouds of Jupiter itself. Human ships, specially designed to operate in the gas giant's crushing pressure, burst upward like arrows from a bow. They had been hiding there for weeks, waiting for this moment. Impossible, Wells shouted as the attack began. No ships can survive in those conditions. But humans had spent centuries building submarines to survive in Earth's deepest oceans. Adapting that technology for Jupiter had been challenging, but not impossible. While the Empire looked for enemies in space, humanity had turned the planets themselves into their hiding places. The second wave came from the sun. Small, unmanned ships coated in heat-resistant materials skimmed the solar surface before launching themselves at the Imperial fleet. The Empire's sensors couldn't see them against the sun's brightness until it was too late. Our shields are failing, Imperial officers reported as the solar-heated weapons melted through their defenses. How did they know our weakness? They didn't know that humans had spent months studying captured Imperial technology. They had discovered that the Empire's shields couldn't handle extreme temperature changes, something Earth scientists had learned to manage centuries ago. But the real surprise came from Earth itself. The ground-based factories that the Empire had dismissed as primitive suddenly launched thousands of objects into space. They weren't ships or weapons. They were simple metal containers. What are those? Wells demanded as his sensors detected the launch. The containers burst open, releasing millions of tiny metal pieces. Together, they formed an artificial asteroid field, surrounding the Imperial fleet in a cloud of deadly debris. Any ship trying to move at high speed would be torn apart. Standard Imperial doctrine states that we must maintain formation, Wells's officer reminded him. But if we stay together in this debris field. He didn't finish the sentence. They all knew what would happen. The Empire's mighty fleet, with all its rigid rules and formations, was trapped by the most basic laws of physics. Stone watched as the Empire's fleet tried to respond. But their perfect military doctrine, developed over centuries of easy victories, was useless now. Humans had turned space itself into a weapon. Launch the hybrid ships, Stone commanded. The newest human vessels moved into position. They combined Imperial technology with human innovations in ways the Empire had never imagined. Where Imperial ships were specialized, these vessels could adapt to any situation. Where Imperial crews followed strict protocols, human crews were free to improvise. Wells watched in growing horror as his fleet was attacked from all sides. Ships coming from Jupiter's clouds below, solar-skimming weapons from above, debris clouds restricting their movement. And now these strange hybrid vessels that seemed to ignore the laws of proper space combat. This isn't how war is supposed to be fought, Wells shouted as another of his ships was disabled. But that was exactly why humanity was winning. They didn't fight the way war was supposed to be fought. They fought to win, using every trick, every advantage, and every crazy idea they could think of. As the battle reached its peak, Stone sent one final message to all human forces: Remember what we fought for. Not just for Earth, but for every world the Empire has conquered. Show them why humanity never breaks, never surrenders, and never stops fighting. The final phase of Operation Thunderstrike was about to begin, and the Empire was about to learn why they should have heeded humanity's warning. The remains of the Imperial fleet hung motionless in space, surrounded by the combined forces of humanity. Operation Thunderstrike had succeeded beyond all expectations. Grand Marshal Wells's mighty armada had been reduced to less than a quarter of its original size, and those ships that remained were badly damaged. On the bridge of his flagship, Wells stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "How?" he whispered. "How could primitives do this to the mighty Empire?" The answer came from his own crew. His second-in-command stepped forward, speaking the truth that many had begun to realize. "Sir, we were wrong about them. We weren't fighting primitives. We were fighting survivors." In Earth Defense Station Alpha, Admiral Stone received the message everyone had been waiting for. The Empire was requesting a ceasefire. "Should we accept?" his officer asked. Stone thought about all the battles, all the innovations, and all the sacrifices that had brought them to this moment. "Yes," he said. "It's time to show them that humans know how to win with honor." The meeting was set on neutral ground, a space station positioned halfway between the human fleet and the Imperial remnants. Stone walked into the conference room and found both Wells and Rex waiting for him. "Before we begin," Wells said stiffly, "I must know. How did you do it? How did you defeat our superior technology in numbers?" Stone smiled. "Because we never stopped thinking of new ways to fight. Every time you used the same tactic, we created 3 new ones to counter it. Every time you followed your doctrine, we broke our own rules to surprise you." Rex nodded slowly. "We found your history records during the war. Your people have fought more wars against themselves than we fought against all other species combined." "That's right," Stone replied. "Humanity survived countless wars, disasters, and challenges. Each time, we grew stronger. We learned. We adapted. When you attacked us, you didn't find a primitive species. You found one that had been preparing for war since it first picked up a stone as a weapon." The peace terms were surprisingly simple. Humanity demanded independence, not just for Earth, but for all the worlds the Empire had conquered. They also insisted on sharing technology, not taking it by force, but exchanging knowledge equally. "But why?" Wells asked. "You could demand our surrender. Take our empire for yourselves." Stone shook his head. "Because humans learned another lesson from our wars. Victory without peace is meaningless. We don't want to rule your empire. We want to help build something better." As the discussion continued, news spread throughout the galaxy. The mighty empire, undefeated for thousands of years, had been fought to a standstill by a single primitive world. But more importantly, that world was now offering friendship instead of dominance. In the weeks that followed, delegations from hundreds of worlds arrived in the solar system. They came to see the humans who had done the impossible. What they found surprised them even more than the stories of the war. They found humans already rebuilding, adapting Imperial technology to clean up the environment and solve ancient problems. They found a species that could switch from war to peace as easily as they had switched from peace to war. 6 months after the battle, Stone stood with Rex on the observation deck of the New Earth Imperial Embassy. "You know," Rex said, watching ships from dozens of worlds dock at the station, "when we first arrived, we thought we were superior because we had stopped fighting among ourselves centuries ago." "And now?" Stone asked. "Now I understand that peace is valuable precisely because we know war," Rex replied. "Your people never forgot that. That's why you were ready when we came." Stone nodded, looking out at the stars. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger. They had proved themselves not just as warriors, but as innovators, adapters, and now, perhaps most importantly, as teachers. The galaxy was changing. The age of imperial dominance was over, And it had all started because an empire had underestimated a primitive species that had learned to survive anything the universe could throw at them. As Stone liked to say in the years that followed, we warned them to run. Instead, they learned to walk beside us.